let's see. Do we have a mic? Mics? I think so. All right. Let me just double check that. I don't necessarily trust this thing. There's 27. Yeah, it's looking right. Discord, I see you there. Okay. It's like some kind of automatic green screen thing. Sort of working. We'll deal with this. Okay. So, what we're doing here. Welcome to Evidence-Based Audio Engineering, number 151. This one I'm calling Your Epistemology is Busted. We talk about epistemology on here all the time, but it always comes back up. You know, we talk about actually testing things and seeing if the claims people make can be backed up by anything. And, you know, the very basics of science and skepticism, critical thinking, reason, rationality. And today, you know, I was in shock to find out that Kaiser, the health insurance company, Kaiser Permanente, they have doctors who push acupuncture. Okay. This one, well, not like my stuff is monetized anyway. It's just bullshit. I mean, hey, you know, they push this shit. So that's not the craziest thing. You know, I'm not surprised. They probably pay for chiropractic too. The thing that kills me is that people who should know way the hell better just believe in this stuff. And they really point the fingers at other people and go, look at those people denying science. Oh man, they're so dumb. They don't believe in global warming or whatever. And yet, when it comes to their side, if their political side has some kind of nonsense anti-science crap, like, you know, back in the day, the anti-vax stuff was almost all left-wing, you know? I think both sides do this. But to think that medical professionals often are part of this, you know, I mean, not nurses, you know, I know it's been studied, published, done to death about nurses being taught stupid crap, Reiki, therapeutic touch, not washing their hands, you know, but, I mean, really important people in science. And you guys love to get mad at me when I talk about, you know, these SJW religious nuts. But the effect that they're having on the schools is that we're putting out scientists, you know, people who at least are supposed to be using science in the interest of public health, that have no basic understanding of reason at all. It's crazy. You know, of course, when it comes to scams, supplemental, complementary, and alternative medicine, the real issue for me, and of course, James Randi, right? You know, probably the worst thing we lost during this nonsense, and skeptics in general, is that these are criminals. These are people who are hurting people. These maybe you got a loved one dying of cancer, and one of these quacks comes up and says, hey, you know, if you just sell your house or your car and just buy this magic beans off of me, it'll cure his cancer. And you know, I mean, people got nowhere to turn, and this is the kind of stuff they do. These people prey on victims, and they're the worst kind of parasitic pieces of crap. You know, when James Randi was still alive, he would show like how you do all that psychic surgery, you know, mostly in a comedy kind of way, but he'd show you the real deal. Brian Brushwood is another one. Any decent skeptic, any science organization before science got neutered by idiot politics. It's so frustrating. And you know this whole left wing versus right wing science denial stuff. Both of them are willing to throw away science if it conflicts with their politics. You know, to quote Matt Dillahunty when he was still secular. I mean, he may take issue with that sentence, but he used to always say, he cares whether or not his beliefs are true. And it's kind of hard to have a conversation, a real one, with somebody who doesn't care about that. And it's sure as hell not somebody that you want to put in charge of anything if they don't care whether or not their beliefs are true. Beliefs inform actions. The other thing Matt Dillahunty said is he wants to believe as many true things and as few false things as he can. And, that to me, that takes epistemology. And epistemology is just how do you know what you know, right? If you got to buy a new door, the way Peter Boghossian says it, if you got to buy a new door, you need to know how big that door is. So you need to measure it. So you could use a tape measure, or you could ask your dog. And like he says, one of those is a reliable pathway to truth. The other one, probably not, Just check this real quick. Sorry. It's basic stuff. This is the scary part. And we'll get to why this matters in audio. But burden of proof, right? How many times have you seen on this show, anyway, if you've been watching for a while? Man, this automatic backdrop thing is killing me. I'm going to turn this crap off. Let's see. How do I do that? Filters. Oh, it's not on there. Interesting. Oh, I see one. Oops. All right, you get treated to my my messy room, and it's less freaky than whatever that stuff was where it's flopping around. Anyways, so basic stuff, burden of proof, right? If you're going to bring a claim, you bring the burden of proof. There's, when it comes to apologetics, if you hear apologetics basically is, started with religion. It was meant to, apologetics is to tell you why what something actually says isn't really what it means. It's a really dishonest way of lying about your claims. In the original thing, I think it was meant to be like a defense of the faith. You could go looking way back in history, but basically apologetics just means what I say something means, not what it says it means, basically. One of the things you see a lot of times is they're like, well, you don't know it doesn't work. You don't know, blah, blah, blah. The burden of proof is on the person making a claim. And you can knock this down. I mean, this is basic. This is so basic. This is back in the day with Carl Sagan, right? He had his baloney detection kit, right? So basic. All you have to, think about it. What's the one they always come up with? I have a fire-breathing dragon in my garage. You don't know I don't have one. And they'll say, well, yeah, I'm going to go look in your garage. Well, wait, it's invisible, so you can't see it. So you don't know I don't have one. You can always pull out some nonsense. That's why the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. This is basic. This isn't something you should be able to get through high school science without. It's definitely, and this is what's killing me, it's definitely not something you should ever get through college without. Definitely not in the medical profession where you're going to kill people. This is crazy stuff. And you see whack doctors everywhere. Skeptic Zone, Skeptic Tank, whatever, the Skeptics of Australia. I think it was Richard Saunders. They had this open letter to Australian pharmacists. And, because you go to a pharmacy and they're selling real medicine right alongside bullshit. And, over there, they were doing like ear candling, or they had that, what was that stuff, the airborne or whatever. Like, just complete nonsense right next to real medicine, homeopathic, chiropractic bullshit. Stuff makes me mad because it hurts people, and it hurts people bad. And then to see people defending it because of their stupid politics, it's just nonsense. Basically, if you hear somebody say Western medicine or Eastern medicine, you can just say they're full of shit. Medicine is medicine. If it works, it's medicine. If it's been shown not to work, or it hasn't been shown to work, then they call it like alternative medicine or something. But basically, they just mean bullshit. Just whatever they say. If somebody ever hyphenates medicine with one of these woo-woo terms, just substitute the word bullshit for it. It's just bullshit. If you can't prove it, it's bullshit. You know, like all these things, take this medicine, take this, or no, not medicine, take this herb, take this root, take this bullshit. All these billion things. Oh, you didn't try it yet. Maybe it would have worked. You know, how do you know? That's the kind of bullshit. You can't try everything. You can't. There's so many bullshit claims out there, you would never get through them all. So the burden of proof is on the claimant. That is basic. That's as basic as it gets. And, you know, you can even go to some dipshit place like Wikipedia, right? So here's their thing on traditional Chinese medicine. So anybody, if you actually know anything about anything, traditional Chinese medicine is traditional to maybe the 50s, right? That's really where most of this shit came from. It's like, I think it was a barefoot doctor program. It's mostly Russian medicine. It's not Chinese. But so let's see what Wikipedia has to say. Traditional Chinese medicine is a branch of traditional medicine in China. It has been described as fraught with pseudoscience and the majority of its treatments as having no logical mechanism of action. Yeah, I mean, even Wikipedia says that, and they will run all the apologetics in the world for this kind of shit. Let's see. So now they actually go back to talking about old stuff, but that's not. I mean, basically, this is that barefoot doc. Yeah, in the 1950s, the Chinese government sponsored the integration of Chinese and Western medicine. And there you go. When somebody says Western medicine, you know they're full of shit. So where did this come from? Chinese and Western medicine. Let's see who said this. Taylor, I have no idea where this is. I mean, I can't imagine. Chinese medicine in early communist China. Did they really use the term Western medicine? I doubt it. Anyways, these guys are full of shit. And you see the same thing in audio claims. I mean, we do, right? Every time we try and measure something, somebody makes some kind of claim. We talked about this a little bit last week. Yeah, you know, if you really want to hear about quacupuncture and stuff, go to Science-Based Medicine or Quack Watch or anywhere. And you know, people are trying to pop out studies on me. So, you know, this is the best one. Like, I don't trust the AMA. The AMA chickened out on chiropractic. This is NCBI. And they published this thing, a randomized trial comparing acupuncture, simulated acupuncture, and usual care for chronic lower back pain. And it just didn't make any difference if you use fake acupuncture or real acupuncture. Listen, you know how this stuff works? It's chi blast stuff, like in the Japanese cartoons where they shoot ki balls at each other. It's a life force. It's like chi or ki, and it goes through lines in your body called meridians. And nobody can agree where these stupid meridians are. They don't exist, okay? First of all, and you know that, medical professionals. We don't have meridian lines and chakras and all this bullshit. No two of these idiots can agree where these stupid meridians are. So one side says, hey, the meridians are right here. So he sticks all the needles in there. And then another guy goes, well, let's purposely stick them someplace else. And they get the same result. Bullshit. Okay. Anyway, let me get out of here. So this is just making me mad. We talked about this interface because, let's face it, most everybody who ever asked me anything, they're asking about interfaces, right? I mean, they're asking about how to get in or out of their DAW. Or both. And that's usually what it is. And, you know, the easy answer is go buy some RME stuff. But it's expensive and it may not all be that convenient. We talked about this a little last week, but I want to go through some things here. So let me refresh this and let me turn off this damn light. I don't need this. Sorry. This thing's burning my eyeballs. Says, hi guys, I'm a noob into the recording topic and I'm trying to set up a home studio from which to upload videos on YouTube and Twitch. I currently have a complete chain from which I can register music, I think he meant record, as follows: electric guitar to his pedals, to his amp head, and to a universal audio aux audio interface, Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 3rd generation of the computer. Hey guys, you know, I think my stupid face is not helping in any way here, so, you know, put it way over here beyond the chat or something. I don't know what I'm doing. I would like to ask you a question about the last piece of this chain, the audio interface. My current audio interface was given to me as a present a couple of years ago. It cost approximately $150. I was wondering if an upgrade of the audio interface involves an improvement in sound or in the quality of the recording. The candidate to replace the Scarlett is the Universal Audio Apollo Solo, approximately $900. What do you think? Thanks for your kind attention. You guys, I don't want to get too biased. You guys know I don't really like the Universal Audio stuff. And I'd be surprised if their USB drivers are any better than this other thing. Somebody answered, if you can hear a difference in an ABX test, I'll be shocked. Even if there is a difference, it's going to pale in comparison to the change you will hear by ever so slightly twisting any knob on your guitar amp or effects devices. Full stop. That's the answer. We've done bajillions of shows where we've tested this stuff, and it is so close to ruler flat. It's amazing. But this is a good question here. What's the point of spending money on audio interfaces if they're all the same? SWS says, unfortunately, SWS says some dumb shit here. They are not all the same. Pros can hear a difference. No, they can't. People who create songs with tons of tracks recorded through that interface will hear it as it all adds up. There's the stacking myth. They all have different features, levels of reliability, different internal operating levels, different interface capabilities, etc. That's true. Can you create a hit on your interface? Absolutely. That's true too. Okay, let's see. I like this. So this guy, Ken Lombardo, says, people do more with interfaces than what you're doing. Your signal chain, you'd have to really try hard to not get a passable sound with it. But if you're tracking vocals or miking up instruments, things change. Well, why? Then there's the matter of I/O. If I'm recording an entire band, a couple of combo jacks aren't going to cut it. See, now that's the thing. Now we're talking about something real. How many channels does this thing have? Whatever. We're not talking about this claim. Just like this scam medicine, you're going to claim this thing sounds better. We got to prove it. We're going to get back to that. If you're asking if sound quality is going to be better on more high-end interfaces, well, at some point the interface is likely no longer anything to do with sound quality. That's down to the AD converters. Maybe, but they're so close to flat. This other guy saying it's differences on the AD converters. I don't, we've checked. Some of them are noisier than others, but it's so quiet it probably doesn't matter. Here's Dr. Frankencopter. Okay. It all comes down to two concepts. One, the law of diminishing returns, and two, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Yes, you can get many features and other improvements with the higher dollar interface, things like better drivers and lower latency. For example, RME. I would second that. I know. You guys see me with all these Focusrites and things like that. I love Focusrite, but you want the fastest stuff, you want the most reliable to me, I'd recommend RME all day long, every day. Number two, higher I/O counts. So again, that's a physical thing. Like, you need more channels. You're going to be recording drums and stuff. You're not going to do it on a 2i2. Better ADDA specs, noise, clocking. Okay, we've done clocking to death. I think that's another one where if you're going to make the claim about clocking, you're going to have to prove it. Noise, I think, didn't we find that the X32, the XR18 was a little bit noisier than the Midas, version of the same thing. The X30, well, it's the M32 versus the X32. No, we did get an X32 to try as well, and I think it was the tiniest bit noisier, but it's so far down there. Let's see, what else you say? Number four is effects processing and better DSP mixing. And that could be true. You get the UA stuff. RME is notorious for the DSP mixing. Total Mix is awesome, though I don't understand why can't Total Mix have virtual channels so we can get more loopbacks? Like, why are we giving up loopbacks like this anyway? Somebody else said, Solid Guitar said, I doubt it would make a dramatic difference. Focusrite stuff is really good. So the same guy who really nailed it, HC and Marcus, while I won't claim to have a lock on truth, I always wonder how many of those who claim they can hear a difference between interface converter A and interface converter B have actually proved their claims in an ABX test. Just saying. That would be a big fat zero, Marcus. I'm pretty sure. And then he answers the, are they all the same with, of course not. As been pointed out, there are tremendous functional differences between interfaces, number of inputs, mic preamps, metering, connectivity, but I would assert that, at least for the line input, line output, few, if any, will be able to reliably differentiate the sound of current well-designed audio interfaces. I'll take that further, and I'll tell you why in 1 second here. Where are we? If you need a better colored mic preamp, buy a preamp. Make sure you have a great mic first. How many of these mic preamps have we tested? How many tests have we actually seen where the pros, the super pros, these guys who know so much, they can't tell the difference between these mic preamps when they spent years on forums screaming about how you'd have to be a total noob to not be able to tell the difference with them. I don't know what color is. I keep hearing it. I've never heard it. I hear people talk about it. I mean, I've seen, like, you know, when you slam the shit out of an API, you know, I can make it angry for some things. Maybe it'll make a big fat snare or a crunchy snare, but I mean, pretty much break anything if you really want. If you need more inputs, then buy a new interface or expand the one you own if possible. If you have the know-how, you can make great recordings with the least expensive modern interface. Yes. Yes, you can. And this guy, Stokely, says, I'd be really curious about that too. I have a Behringer 4-channel one that costs $79 on sale and it sounds fine to me. A-being it with others would be pretty hard to hear inadequacies that were not obvious. Well, thankfully, remind me, Stokely, because I have the exact picture that you're looking for. And these guys aren't going to be happy about it because they're... Yeah. Alan Dunn says, a pro can do more with the $150 interface than the rest of the crowd can do with the $10K one. Although listening to most modern mainstream recordings from top studios and bands, high quality recordings seem to be something that died in the late 80s. Yes, now it's just a loudness war. Yep, let me just throw a like on there. Let's see. These guys are talking about. Let me get to where. I mean, you know what I'm gonna say because I always say the same damn thing. Okay, let me get to the next page. Maybe I have to search our way through here. But I did have to kind of. It's right there. What's wrong with the E? Okay, no, that was it. Next page. Sorry, guys. There's a couple pages to go through, but you know, we keep going back and forth with this, so I'm resurrecting it a little bit. Hey, whoever's there from Facebook or wherever you're from. Okay, let's see if I can find this one. Yeah, see, and you know, I mean, this is kind of the reason this show, this channel, whatever exists, because this is the kind of stuff we test all day long, right? It's these claims. If you're gonna bring the claims, you better bring the evidence. You know, I'm in here someplace, unless they deleted all my posts, which I wouldn't be too surprised. Okay, so I'm responding to something here, and I'm saying, can someone name a lower priced interface? Because somebody was saying, you know, these lower priced ones have crappier converters or whatever. So I said, can someone name a lower priced interface with worse converters than a higher priced interface? And what are you willing to put up as a bet that you can't tell the difference in an ABX test? That's the one. I love this bet because they always run away. Now, somebody's answering me with, I'd be interested to participate in the test, but I'm not willing to put money on much outside of weird circumstances. Frankly, most of the reason is that I've lost pretty much all faith in basically everyone's ability to set up the test well enough. And I'm not even really trying to insult people when I say that. A lot of things I'm interested in ABXing are really that hard to test scientifically without making significant assumptions or bringing in a confounding variable. At some point, I get the myths and why they persist, but still it bugs me. And, but, you know, the point is, if those things are that small that they're going to make that, the difference between them just vanish, then there ain't not a difference. So I say, I think in the end, if it cannot be distinguished by an ABX test under any sane conditions, then if the difference is small enough to be dwarfed by what must be the most minute and unnoticeable of confounding variables, I'm okay with the results. And so here's somebody else's Rip Guitar, I think, is saying, I think a lot of what we hear in audio interfaces is the preamps, not the converters. And yeah, there can be a difference. Can there? You got to prove that, because every test we've done, every test I've ever seen, they're not really that different, if they're different. And the people who say that they're different can't tell the difference between them. That's the important part. But I built the $5 mic pre from the That Chip schematic, and it sounds pretty good. So there's that. Of course it sounds good, and it's gonna. Let's see. This guy uses the analogy of race cars use very expensive tires because to them it really makes a difference. Well, because they can give you more traction. But this, if you can't show a difference, I mean, we can test two brands of tires. I guarantee if you put a set of dirt tires and a pair of slicks on a concrete track, I know which one's going to get to the finish line first. So I've said, I think we've finished the ABX testing for 99% of the interface mic preamps years ago, so I'm willing to include them in the test confidently. But yeah, for the OP, definitely don't listen to the sommeliers, audio or otherwise. Turns out they can't tell the difference between red and white wine. Of course, I always say stuff like that, and it makes everybody mad, but they deserve it. So Magus again says the biggest confounding variable is level. Most people don't come anywhere near close enough. Well, then they're not that different. If the level's going to make that big of a difference, fuck it. I've AB'd somebody else, Blinder 33. I've ABX my Pure 2 against my FR 18i20, and I can guess the Pure 2 100% of the time. The difference is subtle, but it's there. Interesting. It's also $70 for a channel versus $12.50 a channel. I don't care. So I wouldn't expect it to be a fair fight. I wouldn't call it a 17.8 times improvement, as the price differential would infer. For what it's worth, I ran the test through the Focusrite's pre, so it's not a pure ADC to ADC comparison. Interesting. As far as I know, you can't bypass those on the Scarlett. It's true. Glad you joined the thread. This is your wheelhouse. What took you so long? Interesting. So I guess this is somebody who knows I really like to talk about this kind of stuff. That's interesting with that pure. I wonder, is it noise? If you can hear it, then I want to know, because most of the stuff we find, you can't. Burl has transformer-based inputs. Interesting. So I said, good thing we can do the test by coming out of the same converters. But Magus is right that just because we're using the same converters, we can still screw up the level. He points it out to me, yes, but on the way back in, you need to calibrate, set the gain pretty much perfectly. And he's true. Okay, now, we may disagree on some stuff, but this guy is really thinks about this stuff. And this is very important to think about here. One of the downsides of cheaper audio interfaces is that a lot of the input gains are set by a knob rather than digitally, which incurs errors. This would have to bring up the argument between the VCA or digitally controlled amplifier, voltage controlled amplifier, whatever, versus an actual knob. The guys who hate VCAs insist that it's like this thing wiggling around and bouncing between two levels and causing all this distortion and stuff. I have no problem with digitally set level knobs. We had them in the when we were running all that Midas DL32 whatever. You set them and they stayed put. I never heard any of that crap. I mean, we measured and measured and measured, and we didn't see any of that crap. I don't mind those things, but I know a lot of these guys who believe in all this mic preamp stuff, they hate the voltage, any kind of digitally controlled anything. So this is interesting, and this is when you get cognitive dissonance, right? You see these religions that they have to believe two totally different things at the same time. They have this loving God who loves everything, and yet it murders every baby on the earth. So you're like, what does that mean, love? Because now the words don't mean what they mean. And this is something going on in society as well, where people keep changing the words of things, and then they hold people guilty for using the definitions that they know. It's stupid. But this is how this stuff happens. Okay, so he says, yes, I know that you can measure and calibrate it. But it's hard. And it sounds like you would do this, but it's hard. And he's right. He's absolutely right that this is a hard test to do. But the difference is so small if that's the thing. But I like the way this guy thinks. So he's really considering all the little things that actually you can. This is kind of quality of life stuff. This is important to our plugins as well, you know. Considering the number of mastering converter shootouts that don't bother, there aren't that many people I trust to get it right. And he's probably right not to trust me to get it right. I'm just going to bang through it. And sometimes the knobs just aren't precise enough to get as close as you would need. He is absolutely right. I mean, you guys all know how frustrating that can be if you got to finick through that thing and it doesn't quite work. At least in my estimation, it's just close enough to the realm of manufacturing tolerances of the knobs that it becomes extremely difficult. Yeah. On an 18i20, trying to get loop back to Unity feels like breathing on the gain control causes it to jump a dB or so. You know, he points out, manufacturers, you should be listening to this guy. There should be a way to get Unity gain. You should be able to absolutely jump back to that 0. Remember all the trouble I used to get for talking about 0? 0 is important. Unity is important. Unity gain, anyway. That alone may be a reason for people to buy certain better interfaces for what it's worth, but it's more of a feature thing than a quality thing, yes. Because the features may be different. I think the best test I've seen was the one that GS did a while ago that ran through several generations of conversion with just cables and the analog signal paths. Remember Roger Nichols did that one time with like a DA88 and he had like 25 generations down or something before it, you know, it was crazy how good it sounded after all that, even though we were told how bad converter hits are. What's he saying? And like I said at the time, pretty much no one actually heard the differences some claim are there. It's interesting. So I stand by what I said. For the vast majority of people in the vast majority of situations, features dictate. At some point, it might be worth paying for something that measures better, even if you don't hear it, if only from an academic standpoint. I can agree with that. Beyond those is a gray area that I think is largely dominated by fear of missing out. Yeah. And there was some other stuff that got kind of deleted. But, you know, I say when the sommeliers get caught out, it's like getting all the name brand apologetics masters from every religion and watching them hem and haw into their greatest defense of presuppositionalism. It's every excuse you ever heard from every con man ever. And, you know, I just put up an old video of James Randi busting Heydrich, who was, I think it was James Heydrich. He was like this karate guy who pretended he could move... he could chi blast stuff, move things with his chi powers or whatever. And then James Randi put talcum powder so he could see the guy breathing and caught him. So, you know, you always wonder, where is it? So, you know, I always say, so here I go. I try and bring it back to the thing. So I say, I would love to see anyone give a specific example. Again, real numbers. Where's the burden of proof? With evidence or measurements of a difference that matters audibly. I'm not talking drivers or included plugins. This would be noise, distortion, bandwidth, frequency response. And I know you guys you know, jump all over me that bandwidth and frequency response are the same thing. I wouldn't say so. I would say that bandwidth is the highest and lowest frequency that this device can reliably reproduce. And the frequency response would be how flat that would it be in that passband. And so time-based errors. And Dr. Frankenkopter includes, you might want to also include cases where the converter is intentionally driven into clipping. Many mastering engineers use their converters this way as a nonlinear stage. I don't think I would. You guys want to distort converters, go distort converters. I want to test fidelity. At least I want to know how real it is before I change it. Right? Some other things you could also measure include crosstalk between channels. Good one. I wonder, we should do that. We really should do that. Or did I do a crosstalk? We should do that. Latency group delay of the converter and associated anti-alias filters, plugs, analog front end is distinct from the driver buffer. Blah. That is super duper DSP stuff that I barely understand, but if there's a way to test it, I want to do it. resolution, i.e. how many real bits are used. Yeah, you can get a 64-bit converter. I don't know how much your noise. Listen how noisy it is in here, man. What am I going to do with that thing? Could probably get a 12-bit and be fine. Just off the top of my head, ideas, yeah. And Magus goes on to really do a good thing about how the incremental improvements. So the problem I see with incremental improvements is that they wind up making the nice stuff more expensive. If you start with a $150 interface like a 2i2 or audio box or something that performs at least fine for the vast majority of purposes, then you need a few more channels. So you spend $500, then you decide you want incremental quality and spend $1,000, then you want a little bit better, $1,500. You could have just bought the expensive stuff in the first place, but scaling is always tricky, and especially for the way all this subscription crap works now, where you get a couple employees, it's fine, and then you scale up just a little bit and they charge you crazy money. Oh man. And let's see, future support. So this is Dr. Frankencopter again. And remember, until very recently, I had Motu 2408 Mark IIs from 1998 or 1999 running in all these rooms. I'm going to talk about future proof. So he says, future support is definitely something folks should consider. It's one of the reasons RME interfaces are so highly regarded. It's hard enough to predict the future of the physical interface, i.e. FireWire, but one should definitely look at the manufacturer's track record for software support for their products. I got to say, PreSonus not so good. Sometimes, but not always, like when Windows 10 and stuff. Somebody sends, and see, this is where I get freaked out. This guy, Gabriel, says, the way I see it, as an amateur, obviously, there's an incremental upgrade path depending on the individual's needs. USB entry-level stuff, Thunderbolt mid-range stuff, high-end stuff, like Apollo and Antelope. I don't know what the Thunderbolt. What are we doing with Thunderbolt anyway? Is that still even a thing? Like it just keeps going and coming and going. I don't know. Let's see. So Jason E says, I went from an 11 rack to a UCX2 all because of this. Well, the fire RME. I decided it was time to spend more money to ensure that I get more life out of my interface. All I did was update my OS on my computer and ended up a whole chain of replacing things. I'm confident that I will not be looking at a new interface for a good long while now. Hey, I'm running RME Digiface USBs. I think they run on USB too. And I think they're pretty much better than just about anything else. Dr. Frankencopter says, I use an RME 9652 ADAT interface for 15 years. They kept updating the drivers and the total mix software. The damn thing is still supported, but it's harder to find a motherboard with a PCI slot. Yes. I ended up jumping to a MadiFace FX a couple of years ago, but I still have that 9652 just in case. And yeah, Magus also says, yeah, RME is an odd one. They have a handful of PCIe cards that, while less popular now, are still standards for a handful of uses that came out over 10 years ago. It's almost unheard of in the realm of audio interfaces. There's a reason they come out with new products so rarely. Yeah, and RME, I think they make a Thunderbolt device. I remember they kind of got nailed on FireWire. It was a hard thing to do. I'm responding to a lot of different things. People keep saying stuff like difference in sound, but they refuse to post any actual evidence of audible difference. Also, most of the stuff uses the same Thesicon, the Sycon, whatever, drivers. Some of the more expensive stuff uses even worse drivers than that, which is crazy because there is some high-end stuff that uses crappier drivers than the kind of the cheap and middle of the road stuff. Of course, RME is an exception, but even there, I doubt anyone will actually be able to post audible differences. Just way the hell better drivers than anybody else. Really like RME. And I was responding to Magus, and he was talking about the 10 years or whatever, and I said 20 plus years. The 1999 RME HDSP 9652 that I sent to Justin Frankel to test Reaper with back in the Bush 2 days is still in use, and they still make new drivers for him. That's RME, man. That's if you want to know why we are so fanatical about RME. But Motu was close too. And so, now we're back to something real. So, in fact, let's ask you guys. We just ran into an issue with the client who has a PreSonus Audio Box 96. Back in the early interface days, a lot of interface instrument inputs, their DI inputs. I know you guys get on me about that. couldn't handle loud pickups and clip. In fact, the early Scarlett or Octoprix Mark IIs or whatever, they would clip if you put a EMG in the DI instrument input. This one is still doing that. I guess that it's not a bad idea to check your interface has pads on it or is known to handle louder pickups, like the newer Focusrite Scarlett stuff. First gen certainly could distort. Not sure how Gen 2 was, but Gen 3 seems fine. I just had my guitar into a Gen 3 Focusrite input last night and it was fine. Somebody didn't get that. Let's see. I'm on the Digiface USBs now, and it's really hard to be happy when you're used to RME on PCI. It's just incredible. Not that the Digifaces are bad at all, but damn. Do you happen to know if the RAID-AT will do SRC on the way in on per input basis? No, I don't. That's interesting. So anyway, that's our thing. You know, we're going to make claims about, especially, this thing is all about separating you from your wallet, right? Separating your money from your wallet. I don't know, however those guys say that. Don't do it unless you got some evidence that's going to make a difference. You know, don't buy magic beans to cure your cancer if you don't have any reason to think it's going to work. What's this? Buy followers, primes, and viewers. You know, it's funny, like the stuff Twitch and everybody else attacks scientists for constantly, and yet they let all these scammers on here and all this crap. Unreal. But point is not to go spending money when you don't need it. I mean, spend it on stuff you need, like acoustic treatment or speakers or something. You know, if you need more channels, get more channels. But when people say that something's going to sound better, it's like this Tonewood thing, man. Like, if they don't bring evidence with them, don't buy it. And no difference in medicine. If they don't got evidence for it, man, what are you, crazy? I mean, you know, I know this is what the anti-vaxxers say, but sorry, but the vaccine, oh my God, now I'm going to get this thing. The pokes got evidence. The anti-poke guys, they don't have the evidence. They got bullshit. In fact, they're the ones who push all this traditional Chinese medicine nonsense bullshit anyway. So yeah, it just pissed everybody off, but I'm pretty happy we went through this little bit with looking at how, you know, what stuff actually is going to matter on your interface. And I do want to go check some crosstalk stuff. We should do that, and we will do that. And I will see you guys next week. Or, you know, if you're in one of the 5 billion tech support things, you'll see me all through the week. I'll see you guys later.